everyone. Welcome to Full Disclosure, LodeStar's bigger, better, and more improved podcast. I, Jim Paolino, am joined with Alayna Gardner and our off-camera producer, Tim Austin. We're here to bring you a different look than we have in the past, a lot more up-to-date news on the industry. We'll still have some special guests. We're really excited to have everyone come along for the ride in this next generation of our podcast.
So for our first segment of the new and improved LodeStar Full Disclosure podcast, we would love to get a mortgage industry vibe check from you, Jim and Alayna. We'll start with what's the vibe in the industry right now in general?
That's a deep breath.
Yeah, it's been an interesting summer. I think there's obviously a lot of pressure on interest rates to go lower. They're at their lowest point of the year right now, so folks are excited about that. I think if you were to ask 20 mortgage professionals what's going to happen next, you get 20 different answers. So I think there's just a lot of holding your breath and waiting to see what's going to happen. Happy for some slight improvements at the moment, and then just waiting to see, because there are just a lot of moving parts right now.
Yeah, I think it's tough when, things come through and then they're held up in court and then they finally go one way or the other, right, in court of, hey, this has been shut down, this hasn't been shut down. I think it's a lot to follow, which is in part why we are actually going to be talking about regulation in our regulation recaps that we're going to shoot separately. So we'll be focusing mostly on regulations that affect fees and what LodeStar does, because that is our area of expertise. And we'll have those come out as shorts separately when we see regulations come up that specifically affect what we do here at LodeStar.
And I originally wanted to call the economic session mixed signals, but I got vetoed in that name. But there are a lot of mixed signals right now with, what part of the economy is doing well, what's going to happen with tariffs, what's happening with inventory. A lot of things are kind of conflicting, and it's tough to know what exactly is going to win out.
100%.
One specific question for you both. We're transitioning now from the summer slowdown to the fall market. What do we expect this year? What might be unique about 2025?
One thing that's really interesting is, one of the most recent reports that came out is there are a lot more houses on the market than there should be right now. And there really is seeming to be this flip from a seller's to a buyer's market. I see it in my neighborhood. We have more houses going up that maybe aren't moving as quickly as they used to. And I think that says a lot, right? And you kind of have to see what's happening in those spaces, because we used to have this huge inventory shortage. And now I think it's more of a affordable housing / those like entry level homes don't really exist today. So when you put a house up in a higher price range, it doesn't move as quickly.
Yep, and then curious to see what happens now as rates go down, people's spending power goes up. So like we said, a lot of things that can change. I mean, maybe we didn't really see much of a spring market, so maybe it'll be delayed. The fourth quarter is usually a little bit slow, but with rates coming down, it might not be the case. It's like we've said a few times already, it's tough to tell.
I think a lot of people seem to be asking themselves, what is going on right now?
Yeah. I would say our volume's pretty steady at the moment. We've seen a slight increase over last month, I would say, company-wide. That's hundreds of thousands of quotes. So, we'll see where that lands in the fall.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
We see a lot in at least in our, like where I live it's up and coming, right? With that in mind, we do see a lot of the houses that are just the exterior, and you really have to ask yourself, okay, so you're listing this at a, higher price point because of the area, but what does the inside look like?
Yeah. And how many people are still willing to buy a house like that?
Yeah. And you used to be able to get that to move.
Yeah.
It didn't matter because someone would come through and gut it. And I think now that's starting to be more of a problem for people that are in those types of homes.
Any final thoughts?
Seeing conference lists for the fall, we are seeing pretty strong attendance still. With conferences that we've sponsored, we do get some attendee lists early and all of that. So we are expecting, to see a good number of lenders at shows this fall. And with that in mind, you can see LodeStar at TMC in Boston. We will also have NBA Annual is a big show for us as always, as well as Housing Wire's IMB Summit. So we have a few more shows to round out the year that I think will be really good. but
Mhm.
it's definitely interesting to see attendee lists come out.
Yep. I would say too, it's kind of a sweet spot for mortgage companies. If you're still around as a mortgage company, you figured out a way of making money in this market. And often people are either too broke or too busy to make large scale changes to their business. But I feel like folks right now are at this kind of nice Goldilocks in between moment
Mm.
where, okay, I'll switch in LOS because I'm not as busy as I will be, but I need gains in efficiency. So let's do this. Let me switch other things in my software stack. There's a lot of openness to anything that's going to gain efficiency because everyone who's still around has figured out how to stay alive in this market, and they know it's only going to get busier from here. So I would say the openness to changes and the focus on efficiency are two things that we hear again and again and again.
I think we should just honestly, what if we just end it with a bunch of us spoofing on the full disclosure tagline? Full disclosure, we talk mostly about mortgage.
Full disclosure, all of the fees and some of the tea.
Full disclosure, when pumpkin spice is the only reliable thing about your economy.
Full disclosure, because I can't believe we talked for 45 minutes and did not mention the Taylor Swift Travis Kelce interview.
Oh my God, it was so good.